Extradited back to Mexico. His attorneys are fighting hard to keep him in this country. Back to you.
All right, Harris, thank you very much.
Sure.
We've been telling you a lot about the gridlock forming between the White House and the new Republican leadership coming into Capitol Hill. So is there any way to get the Beltway back on track before the new Congress convenes in January? Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate, former Rural Outreach Director for John McCain's presidential campaign, Ford O'Connell, and the president of NDN, that's a left-leaning think tank, Simon Rosenberg. He's also a former Bill Clinton campaign advisor.
You want my water? You get a little choked up there, kid?
I am. It's just one of those things. We'll try and get through this. Ford, you say that the president needs to
take a little sip.
Thank you. You say the president needs to display that he is trustworthy?
Absolutely. Look, the latest meeting is obviously an Axelrod PR stunt. It reeks of it and one of many to come. With that said, though, after Obamacare, the president has a lot to do in terms of working to get Republican trust back. Republicans need to get results, and if President Obama demonstrates himself to be an honest broker, they will compromise because they have to.
All right. Simon, your take. I mean, the Republicans obviously won a lot of seats on Capitol Hill in part because they opposed much of what this president spent the last 2 years putting in place.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Democrats are still have more power in Washington than the Republicans do, despite the significant victory the Republicans just had. And with this greater power for the Republicans comes greater responsibility. I think there's going to be a real effort by both parties to try to find the common ground that they can work on while also standing their ground. I think you're going to see both of these things happening at the same time. And I'm optimistic that a few good things are going to happen. Remember, after 1994, Gingrich and Newt Gingrich and President Clinton then were able to come together and solve some big problems together. The country needs the coming together of the two parties. I hope that we'll see that in the next 2 years.
Yeah, everybody wants to see progress,
Yep.
But Ford, you know, taking you back to the spring, the president attended a Republican, event involving members of Congress in Baltimore, and everybody was saying, okay, this is a great opportunity for the two parties to show they can work together. Republicans came away from that feeling like the president sort of hijacked the meeting and browbeat them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really the big thing, and that was on a national stage. People expected everybody to come together, and essentially President Obama burned them, and it's going to take a long time for them to get over that, but they don't have a long time. They're on the clock. They have to get results, and they're going to have to work with the White House to achieve it, especially on tax cuts.
Simon, can you point to one area where you think both parties could and should work together right now to get something done that people like?
Sure. I think there are three areas that are going to be very important: an economic policy and fiscal policy. We've got to reduce the deficit while get the economy growing again. We've got to continue to work together to manage the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And hopefully John Kyle is going to reverse the position that he laid out this morning, and we can get the START treaty signed before the end of the year. I mean, we had broad bipartisan support for this, and I think this is a great example of where the Republicans are going to have to be careful between playing ideological games and doing the people's business. And I think in this case, John Kyle's made a mistake. We should get the START treaty signed and get it done before the lame duck ends.
Simon Rosenberg.
Let me add on to that, Simon, real quick.
Well,
John Kyle is one of our best senators, to be honest with you, and he is not going to go along with anything that's poorly thought out. Give Senator Kyle a chance, and he'll prove to be one of our best power brokers.
All right.
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so, Ford.
Simon Rosenberg and Ford O'Connell, thanks to you, and thanks to Jenna for keeping me from choking.
I don't know what I'm going to do with both you and Harris. Both of you got that raspy voice thing going on. I'm just going to be here by myself. The weather